Hey guys, welcome back to Music Talk with John. Today I have a guest, some guy I just found on the street, decided to feed him, gave him some food, and what are we drinking?
We're drinking Mr. Bob Dylan's Heaven's Door.
Yeah, so no advertisement here, but
Yeah.
that's good whiskey. I like it. Did you tried it? You liked it?
I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
Very nice.
So
nice and smooth.
it was interesting. I just found out we did a DNA test, and I found out this guy off the street is my dad. So that's kind of interesting. So we started talking about music, of course, and so here we are. So I had him narrowed down. Today's episode is going to be based on his top 10 stranded on an island
Yep.
kind of thing.
On an island.
Knowing that you're going to be stranded on an island, I guess, is how that works. But the
Well, if
10,
they got electricity on there.
yeah, well then maybe you can put your ear up to it and get a shell or something and listen to the grooves
there
of the
you go.
record. So anyway, these are going to be his top 10 stranded on an island records. So let's go. Okay, so we're back. All right, so these will be the top 10 albums that my dad would take on a desert island with him. That albums that he just couldn't live without, have to take with it. Even if we couldn't play it and we didn't have electricity. Just knowing we had it, it would be comforting. And then you see here in the background today is a little different. So I took all my baby pictures and all the pictures I took from them and made a screen show out of it. So that's what's playing in the background. That's why you don't see the album covers this time. So anyway, what we're going to do is start with the first album, which is, I don't have all of these, so when I get to one that I don't have, I'm just going to point here, and then it's going to magically appear. So, the first one is
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Okay, and this came out
67, I believe.
67, yep.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a reissue. So what is it about this album that out of all the Beatles albums, this would be the one?
Well, to tell you the truth, when I first heard it, I didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah.
Too different?
Yeah. You know, because you're looking at a guy that grew up in the 50s and the 60s, and then when you look at the Beatles and everything else, I wasn't too sure about the early Beatles themselves, but when this one came out, I had a friend of mine from high school, and he said, "You got to give it a listen, give it a listen." And I said, "Okay," and I didn't like it. It took about 2 or 3 listenings, and then I started to get into it, and then it became one of my favorite albums.
Okay. So when the Beatles first came out, were you just like, oh, that's just another... Were there a lot of boy bands at the time?
Not really. I mean, you know, you had actually the girl bands in the early 60s were pretty hot back then, more so than the boy bands. But the Beatles, you know, clean cut with the hairdo and everything else was kind of different.
Yeah.
But what was kind of neat to watch the Beatles as the decade went through was them changing their style and just their way of music. And it seemed like starting with either Revolver or Rubber Soul, I felt that was pretty good stuff. But for some reason, Sgt. Pepper I couldn't get into for a little while.
Did they get a lot of radio play? So you turn on the radio and be a lot of Beatles?
Yeah, not so much off of Sgt. Pepper though.
No.
But some of the other songs. In fact, they had like a couple of albums that were like Paperback Writer. That was a good song.
Yeah.
It was just a song. It was just a single. It didn't really come on one of the albums. But they did get a lot of play. I mean, heck, sometimes you could see were 3 songs were on the top 10.
Yeah. And then did they play full albums at one point? I know in the 70s they did full albums. So
well, I know when they were going into FM, which really kind of changed the whole idea of listening to music. They did have some stations that would play a complete album, but I never really listened to them too much. I listened more to like the top 40 stations.
So what songs stick out on this album as far as?
Well, I like the beginning, you know, the way it starts out, and A Day in the Life. Now, the day in the life here was kind of freaky.
Yeah, that had to been different for the times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's interesting because they started the album. It's almost like it's its own little presence because the album starts with Sgt. Pepper. Then you have that Sgt. Pepper reprise, and then A Day in the Life comes.
Yeah.
So it's almost like this is the album, and they said, check out this too or something.
Mhm. Well, A Day in the Life was unique in the sense that when it ended and they hit that last note on that piano,
Oh yeah.
and it just kept going.
Yeah, they let it
I
ring
mean,
out.
it was just wow. A couple of the songs in here that I really do like a lot is A Little Help from My Friends, and let's see, When I'm 64.
Yeah.
And
Which is
unfortunately,
fun.
I've passed that.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Which is what, do you remember the movie that's in the beginning? With the naked baby? Bouncing up and down? World According.
World of Carp. Yeah.
According to
World
Carp.
According to Carp. Yeah.
Carp, yeah.
That was Robin Williams in that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and this was actually, I didn't realize, but this is actually considered a psychedelic album because of all the different sounds and all that. It fit right in the psychedelic era.
Well, the thing I loved about the album cover was a lot of these people I kind of grew up with. I mean, you know, well, there's Dylan there's Marilyn Monroe, or is that James Mansfield? I can't remember which one.
Yeah, I think that was Jay Mansfield. Yeah.
Tom Mix. Okay.
And then is that Fatty Arbuckle?
That's probably Hardy. It was Laurel and Hardy.
Oh. Oh, yeah, it is. That's right, because there's Laurel.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, Laurel and Hardy, and Marlon Brando, and yeah. So I really liked that cover.
Did you grow up with Edgar Allan Poe, too?
Yeah, Edgar Allan Poe. Yeah. W.C. Fields.
Yeah, Fred Astaire, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a cool album. And Frank Zappa did an album too, I forgot, with the Mothers of Invention. And he kind of copied this album. And it was kind of cool what he did. I think he even put the four Beatles in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's that album. Then we're moving on to, I think, 1970.
Tumbleweed Connection?
Yes, and when's the first time you this guy came on your radar?
Your Song was the first one that I heard on Elton John, and I didn't really get into him until probably in the 70s, but somehow I got a hold of Tumbleweed Connection, and it's kind of Marty Robbins-esque, if you can.
Really?
Yeah, because if you think about it, they're ballads.
Yeah.
And that's what Marty Robbins did, was ballads.
Right.
And this is like ballads. And it's just great music all the way through. Definitely not in his mode from the years later.
No, what do you
This
got to
was
that?
definitely a unique album.
The glam.
But it was it is my top favorite of all the Elton Johns.
Well, this and Madman, which I think came right after this. I think that
Madman Across the Water.
Could have been a double album. Those two are so similar in the style. And this was a time, early 70s, when there was that country look.
Well, the Southern rock was starting to come in. At the time, you had groups like the Eagles coming in and stuff, so Southern rock.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he tried to
Yeah, he definitely did.
mix.
Well, it was that. It wasn't even, because I don't think the album I would consider even country. It has a little of that country taste to it, but the look of the album, and there's a couple albums that came out around that time a little bit later that had that country feel.
And you get the cowboy boots going for him right there.
So, and then you always had Bernie Taupin right, and so I don't. But so on this one, they didn't even have the songs. But what were the songs that stick out on this for you?
Let me take a look at it real quick.
I don't see the.
Amarina, I think, is one that's really a nice melody.
Might be right on the album itself.
Yeah, there we go.
That's Ballad of a Well-Known Gun. I mean, it
Yeah,
starts
Ballad
off
of
with
a
that,
Well-Known Gun.
and that weird like that.
Come Down in Time. Son of Your Father. My Father's Gun. Yeah, I mean, there's not one song on here that I
always
don't
liked the sound of Where To Now, St. Peter.
Now, the Talking Old Soldiers.
Yes, that's really good.
Moved me quite a bit.
Yeah, when I was young, that actually attracted me.
Yeah.
Because it was like a conversation, and the way he sang it, it's like really, that's a song that sticks out. It was that one when I was little, and Where To Now, St. Peter, because they have that sound, the real dynamic sound.
Yep.
So, so the Talking Old Soldiers was cool, because it's like about, kind of like regrets or...
Yeah, well, bringing back memories of friends lost, and being from the Vietnam era, lost a friend or so. And
so that kind of reminded you...
Yeah.
Like if you guys, if he hadn't been gone, if you guys had met up later on, that's how you guys would have been talking, or...
Yeah.
Like a conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what music's good about it. It's great for bringing up an emotion or a memory that you was way back and you haven't thought about in a long time.
Right.
So that's what music, and just the sound sometimes can do that.
Yeah, but if you like Southern rock or a little bit of country, you might want to give that a listen.
Hmm. Yeah, I've had this on tape, CD, album, just everything.
Yeah.
All right, so our next one here, this is one where I'm going to go, it's right here.
Look at that face.
And cover that big round face. Yeah, that child took all my hair. He took it with him when he ran away. So next one we're going to put here, and it's going to be the Grand Funk Railroad.
Grand Funk Railroad. Oh.
So that was Closer to Home is the album,
Mm-hmm.
and it was 1970. So what is it about that one?
Well, I wasn't into the heavy stuff like Led Zeppelin and stuff. I mean, Stairway to Heaven and songs like that played on the top 40 I got into, but I never got into something really heavy. But the thing that I found neat about Grand Funk Railroad was they were only a 3-piece band, but I bet you they would do concerts back then like they do today, they'd have the place rocking for sure. The whole album is just upbeat and just, it just cranks it out. It's one of those albums that you want the windows down in your car and crank it out for everybody else to hear. Closer to home though, when I was over in Vietnam, we would have bands from the Philippines that would come in and entertain the troops, and that was the song. And then they would always say, all right, who's the short timers here? And short timers were anybody that had 90 days or less in country. And so you'd see a bunch of hands going up. So one of those days I was able to raise my hand. So I was pretty fortunate to get out of there.
It's time to go home, is that what it was?
Time to go home.
So short timer meant either you're getting ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I tell you, when you get on that big bird, it was a thrill. It was a thrill to get on that big bird and fly home.
And the name of the song is what?
Closer to Home.
Well,
I'm your captain.
That's pretty interesting. It's almost
I'm
like a
your captain.
soundtrack to play as you're leaving Vietnam and going home to the States.
Yeah, and these Filipino bands that came in, they were pretty good.
Yeah.
They did a pretty good job.
Pretty entertaining too. I'm sure they were pretty lively.
Yeah. They did a good job.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's the first time I heard a Grand Funk or listened to a complete Grand Funk album, and I'm like, is this Led Zeppelin Jr. that I'm listening to? Because I couldn't believe how heavy they were and riffs. And then it's the song that sticks out for me. I was telling him it's like you're listening to an album and all the music's good, but then like that song comes on, you're like, it just sticks way out.
Yeah.
It's interesting how music can do that.
And the background was kind of cool too, because when they get into the I'm Your Captain part, getting closer to home, they had the soundtrack of like seagulls in the background, just kind of in the splashing of the water. So if you've never heard that album, you might want to, if you're Led Zeppelin fans, you might want to give that a listen to.
Yeah, definitely. They're heavier than I thought. For some reason, knowing Closer to Home, I knew they were a rock, but not as heavy as the album kind of starts off, and it sounded a little bit like Robert Plant singing, so it's interesting. All right, so the next one's a big one. You've always liked it, I've always liked it. It was 1971, and The Who. Who's next?
Yep, who's next? Well, what brings to mind with that album, when I got back from Vietnam, I was stationed at Fort Sam Houston, where he was born, and at the end of my 3 years, getting close to it, they had a thing called Project Transition. And what that was that for the last 6 weeks of being in service, you could get a job, okay? And so what I did was I hooked up with a grocery chain out there. And the group of guys that I was with, they were really into this album here, which is that's another one of those albums you want to roll that window down and crank it up.
Oh, right from the beginning.
Yeah.
The way I think, was it Barbara O'Reilly? Baba O'Reilly.
Yeah.
I always want to say Barbara O'Reilly.
Yeah.
But I mean that that whole comes
Golden
right in.
Mobile is good.
Yeah, they come
Don't
right
Get
in.
Fooled Again. Yeah, good songs. Yeah, it's a great album all the way around.
Yeah, Won't Get Fooled Again is a great way to end an album. Yeah, Behind Blue Eyes is on this. This is like a greatest hits. It's like that. Tumbleweed it's like a greatest hits to me. There's not one dead song on there, not one push song. Oh, we need to put something, and this doesn't have that either. And this is where Pete Townsend was really getting in there and messing around with the the electronics. I don't know if he had access to stuff like the Beatles did, but he was. There's a video out there if you look it up, and it looks like a telephone operator. It's just a big thing, and he's in a room, and he's just moving wires, and it's making those different sounds. So yeah, this has always been, yeah, as you can see, it has to be in my collection. It's just, this copy's good. It plays fine, couple pops, but if they come up with a MoFi, I might go for that. So, okay, so that's the Who.
Yep.
Next one, this is going to be, I thought.
Who's next?
Next one is
Neil Diamond?
Who's next? Who's next is Neil Diamond.
There you go.
So that's Hot August Night. And, well, I grew up with Neil Diamond in the house.
Oh, yeah.
He was always in there. You know, Neil Diamond, you take or leave some of the stuff. As soon as he hit the Barbra Streisand thing, I was
please don't mention that. It's nightmares.
You had the tape in your house, though, just so you know.
Yeah, well, it wasn't getting worn out.
Yeah, no, it was actually one of the tapes that, the writing on it was nice and clean. Where, like, he had a copy of The Stranger, but I got a hold of that. And I just rubbed it raw because I was always using it. In fact, I think I'm the first one that killed that tape. Had to go buy another one. But, yeah, Barbra Streisand looked brand new. So where did you put all your tape cases? That's interesting because you had that spindle, but it had just tapes in it.
Yeah, it just had the cassette tapes, and
So
it held, I think it held like about 20 altogether. It had 4 sides to it.
Yeah, you just spin it.
And it just spun it around. Yeah, so I had to have quite a few of those.
Yeah.
I dabbled a little bit in the 8-track, but the 8-track didn't fly as well, though the 8-track did sound pretty good, though.
Yeah, I heard it was really good quality.
8-track did sound really good. So.
Yeah. Well, this was this 70 also?
I think 71.
So this came out when I was born, so this thing is not quite ancient.
That's another one that we get the drums pounding in the beginning of it, and it starts out really slow.
Orchestra.
But then the orchestration, and then all of a sudden, boy, it just starts to crank up. And,
well, I just have a hard time looking at this cover and matching it to the music that's being played. It's not heavy at all. It's Neil Diamond, but it's good. It has all the big stuff you would want. It has Cracklin' Rosie, Sweet Caroline. So like this guy singing Sweet Caroline, it just doesn't match for me, or Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon.
This was at the Greek Theater in Vegas, and what was kind of cool about it is that he mentions the Tree People. And I never could figure that out until later on. I realized it's an open area, and people that didn't pay to go in to go see his concert, they sat up in the trees. And he mentions that, I'm singing for you too, Tree People.
God loves you, Tree People.
Yeah,
God bless you, Tree People. Yeah, so so I listened to some of these. Well, I listened to it again because there's ones I know and ones that I have to listen to again. But like Porcupine Pie.
Yeah.
So he got really kind of silly right here on the first 2 songs on side 2, record 1.
Yeah, you're so sweet. The horseflies hang around your face.
Yeah, well, and he puts on a very thick country accent, and then also Soggy Pretzels, and it's about, I think it's about like a woman at a bar, and she's scraping the salt off the pretzels and kind of crying into the pretzels. So, but do you know what country? I can't talk.
Crunchy granola sweet.
What that's about?
Well, of course, crunchy granola is a cereal, but never really figured that one out either.
Yeah, so I was reading the lyrics, and I was like, oh, this is all drug references, and I don't know if Neil, I mean, he looks like he's high as a kite there, but he's probably not, because he is a great showman. When you listen to it or whatever, you can put on a show. But anyway, who knows, maybe he smoked a couple, you never know.
Well,
but
get loosened up.
Yeah, and I was trying to interpret the lyrics, but I looked it up, and he had just moved to California, and he had realized this health phase that was going on. So this is literally about eating granola. So that's all the song's about a guy that's eating granola.
And he first starts out with some of the standards that he did in the 60s with Cherry Cherry. Solitary Man was a big hit for him.
That's a great song.
The prologue, that's where it starts out real slow and the orchestration comes in, and I like the way he ended it with Brother Love's Travel and Salvation.
Now, did he write that song, or did he cover that song? Because the
I'm not
Righteous Brothers
sure. I mean, it should
right?
say on the cover or on the label. I don't think he did much of anything that he didn't write.
Yeah, because the Righteous Brothers covered it, right? Didn't they have it hit? The one that was in like the end of
I don't know about Travel and Salvation show. I don't know who covered that.
No. I'm talking about just the Oh, what am I talking about? This is where this is why he's confused, because I'm talking about He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother.
Oh.
For some reason, I thought that was in this medley. I saw,
no.
I saw Brother. Anyway, so that's why you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little confusion there. No, but he did do He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother. I think
Yeah,
it's
he
on
did do that.
Taproot manuscript
Yeah.
album. So I always wondered if he wrote that, because I know the Righteous Brothers had a hit, or it was popular. It was at the end of Rambo.
Yeah. But I'll tell you another album that was good on Neil Diamond was called Velvet Gloves and Spit. And that's where the Pot song is on. That a lot of people might not know about. He did a song on pot.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah,
and he had interviews with people that graduated from pot and doing other drugs.
Like this guy.
That was hard to not put that album on, because on there he also had a song called Brooklyn Roads, and that brought back a lot of memories for me when I was a kid. He's from New York, and I'm originally from Massachusetts, and report cards we were always afraid to show.
That's what he has, yeah. Right? He says that.
So, but anyway, it was tough, deciding between the two. So I went with Hot August Night.
Yeah, I'll have to listen to that one. I don't think I've heard that whole album. I know that song that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the next one moves us from 72 to 76. Another one of those albums that just, yeah.
Yeah, roll the windows down and crank her up.
Yeah, it hits you right in the face from the beginning.
Not a bad song on any track.
No.
No.
Yeah, I think Tom Schultz was, he basically played all the instruments, wrote it, and then he had Brad Delp, I think, come in and do the lead vocals on it. But just hitting every note, good rock music, good melodies. That's the big thing about it. And then he just went in there and made sure like the song was perfect. But it wasn't overproduced. It still had a good raw, almost live sound, even, which is crazy because he's playing all the instruments. So this is like the Tom Schultz masterpiece.
And I think all these guys were at MIT. They came from MIT, if I'm not mistaken. They're very intelligent people. I mean, they weren't just, just rock and roll wannabes. They really were very smart people.
Yeah. So this is Boston's, that's their debut album.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think this was a debut album. But he did he got denied a couple times. I forgot if it was Geffen or if Geffen was the one that picked him up finally. This is Legacy, but he got turned down. Actually, it's Epic.
Epic. Yeah.
So it might have been Geffen. I don't know why Geffen's ringing a bell, but he turned it in, and they're just like, no, and he kept recording it, and then somebody said, oh yeah, we need to do something with this. So yeah, so this was Boston, and this is from '76. Definitely pick up that album.
Yeah.
All right, next one's just another one that I've had many copies, cassette, 8-track. Never played it because I didn't have anything to play it on. But this is 77. Fleetwood Mac Rumors.
Yeah.
Everybody has this in their collection.
It's another one of those, roll the windows down and crank her up. I think the songs that stick out more for me would be, let's see, Go Your Own Way, You Make Love and Fun, and just those two songs are my favorite. And
Miss Fleetwood is just a goofball.
This guy is just a goofball. If you ever see them in concert and you watch him play the drums,
he looks like that.
His
eyes are wide. And
he's all over the place. But I'll tell you what, he can bang on them drums pretty nicely.
Oh yeah, I mean, the combination here, with Christy McVie on keyboards, Lindsey Buckingham on guitar, John McVie, right?
I think so. I don't. I just know Stevie Nicks. That's pretty much about it.
But think of the bass line on the chain.
Yeah. Oh, the chain.
Very simple, but perfect for that song.
Yeah.
And in the way they recorded the drums, but yeah. And this was like the breakup album. Everybody was splitting. Nicks and Buckingham were breaking up, and that's what Go Your Own Way and songs like that are about. And then these were on the edge of a divorce also.
And Fleetwood's been around for quite a while.
Yeah, they were blues.
Weren't they like a 3-piece band at one time?
I don't know if they were three.
But they didn't have, I don't think they had the girls in there at the time. I think it was just all them.
No, it was him originally, and I can't remember how soon John McVie came in, but it was really a blues band. Fleetwood Mac was straight 60s, or they started late 60s, 70s blues, and then they progressed to this by 76. And this wasn't their first album. I think this was their second, because they had the one that was just Fleetwood Mac with the little... It was similar to this, but it had like a short guy holding a globe.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's
yeah.
a really good album too.
Yeah.
The production's very similar. I don't know if it's the same producer or not. But yeah, they were blues. They weren't anything like this.
Yeah.
And then you got that Buckingham coming in with more of a pop rock kind of influence, and it changed the sound of the band. And Stevie Nicks.
Yeah.
Because there's an album out with these two, and it's hard to find that they did together. So yeah, they were not pop rock by any means in the beginning. So yeah, but that's the album. I mean, this one comes right into with Secondhand News, and then what, Gold Dust Woman, yeah, and Oh Daddy. That's like a heartbreaking song.
Yeah.
So that's
a clown right there.
Buccaneer 76.
Yeah.
Proof of long-term suffering.
Oh man, first 2 years. Oh my God. I did get to see them win one home game. That was it. First 2 years.
But 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah.
That guy would have never thought it was going to happen.
Where was Tom Brady when we needed him, right?
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is Phil Driscoll, Celebrate Freedom. This is the first time I listened to the album, and I have some comments about it, but, well, I forgot to ask him, Fleetwood Mac, is there any memories that stirs up, like, any particular moments? Or
Not really, just that, at that time I had the Honda Goldwing 1000, and it had the AM/FM cassette radio and the fender in the what they call the wings. There's a name for them, the fenders.
Yeah.
And they had the speakers off to the side. And that was another one of those. You roll the window down and crank her up.
Yeah.
So, but the album itself stuck out for me.
Yeah. So, okay. So the next one, like I said, is Phil Driscoll, Celebrate Freedom. I think we agreed on, was it 90 or 84?
Well, 86, the earliest that I
Okay.
saw was 86. He's done a couple of reprisals on it, and to me, it's a very patriotic, and it's a Christian album. He's a Christian artist, and he plays the trumpet. And I'm not big on the trumpets, but with him playing, I don't know, he's just magic with the trumpet. So I really kind of fell in love with that album, and there's times that in my business I was doing horseshoeing, and I'd be on these long stretches of road, and I would just crank that album up, and there's some songs on there that had brought me to tears. I mean, it just was a very emotional album all put together, but it's a good combination of patriotism and Christianity.
So yeah, what I noticed about it, the Phil Driscoll, trumpet playing is obviously tight and very good. It just gets a little nuts for me sometimes. It's like Coltrane. I like early Coltrane, and then Coltrane gets really experimental and gets really just making noises and stuff. And that's part of that. Not that I didn't like it. I was just like, man, it's just a lot, because he really gets into those high notes and really just some odd off timing things, and it has a lot of echo in it. A lot of reverb on there. So, but what I noticed is I always looked at Phil Driscoll as the sort of like your Christian or your Joe Cocker with a trumpet.
Yes.
I mean, when you
Joe
watch
Cocker,
this guy perform,
oh yeah,
forget about it. I mean, even now I just saw a recent video of him. And he's probably.
It's funny you mention that, because I was going to mention that myself, because he reminded me a lot of Joe Cocker.
Oh, because he does the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's just like John Belushi, when he imitated Joe Cocker right next to him.
But you won't find many songs that are about the Statue of Liberty.
No, that's it. That was interesting.
And that song is the one that kind of brings me to tears, because it talks about the freedoms that we have and everybody coming into our country. That's one of the songs that always would bring a tear to my eye. So.
Yeah, I'll have to listen to that one closer. I heard it for the first time, so it hasn't really sunk in or anything. But I noticed too, because he does America the Beautiful.
Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah.
He cranks on that one now. That's great. He does a good. There's him and the Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, yeah.
Just I mean,
on Star
in
Spangled Banner,
their own realm of what they play guitar for Hendrix, horn for Driscoll. But man, I tell you what, I could play those two back to back for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing though I heard with on America the Beautiful, because Ray Charles had covered that. I don't know who did it first. I'm assuming Ray Charles did.
Yeah,
early on.
Yeah.
but Phil Driscoll sounds like Ray Charles. It's like he watched Ray Charles and said, I'm going to be Ray Charles for a minute. Because I always thought he sounded like Joe Cocker.
Joe Cocker, yeah.
But then I'm listening to this going, this is more than, this is Ray Charles I'm listening to. So he channeled Ray Charles for that song. But it's funny, then you get further in the album, you made the reference, there's some Michael Bolton sound in there.
In one of the other albums that he did,
kind of thing.
And it wasn't really a Christian album, it was pretty much a standard pop album for him. And I sounded like Michael Bolton in that too.
Yeah, so I heard all that going on.
Pretty versatile man.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's talented, he's got a great voice, and he's interesting to watch, just like Joe Cocker.
Yeah.
So, all right, our next one was, this is I love the keeping this stuff in, my goofs, because my list is over here. So I'm gonna go get that.
That's the good old days there in soccer. I was a coach. My son was a soccer player there, and I didn't know anything about soccer, but I got roped into it for some reason. The kids are actually teaching me.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's two more.
There he is. Cosmos.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. What a face.
80s, elastic band, the Casio watch. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Okay, so the next one was Yanni live at the Acropolis, and that was in 1994. So how has that one stuck with you for so long?
Well, we used to have a store in one of the malls here in Florida, in St. Pete, Florida, and this store had unique stuff. It was just stuff you wouldn't find in like Walmart or anything like that. And the beauty of it was they had this spindle, and you could turn it around, and it had different CDs on there, and you could look at it and say, okay, I want to hear a couple of tunes on that. So I went ahead and I pushed on it, and I heard Johnny, and I'm like, whoa, that sounds pretty interesting. So, and they only play short versions of each, a couple of songs, but that was enough for me to go ahead and buy the album. And then later on, I bought the DVD.
That was big. I remember everybody had.
Everybody
had that.
Yeah, that was great. It was very upbeat, and it was at the Acropolis over there in Greece. And it just was a great performance. So that stood up to be one of my top favorites, my top 10.
Yeah, and I've listened to it. It's good. I don't know if I'm gonna, or if I need to listen to it more, but you can definitely tell there's a lot of really good musicians. There's even like a bass guitar breakdown at some point in there, like really slapping.
And I think if you watch the video too, you might appreciate it a little bit more too. But they have a couple of women that come on, beautiful women, but man, could they sing! And they sang in a foreign tongue, but I don't know, Greece, probably Greek.
Yeah.
And oh man, they're just beautiful. But to watch the video, they have a violinist there, and she cranks it out. In fact, they kind of have like a dueling violin, because the gentleman that did the orchestra, because Yanni was on the piano, the gentleman that would do the orchestra, he played the violin, and there's a song that they like I said, just like the dueling banjos, and they're just cranking it out. But I'll tell you what, this woman was hands down. I mean, she was phenomenal. You could see how much fun she was having playing it. So if you get a chance to get Yanni the DVD,
Live at the Acropolis.
Live at the Acropolis.
Like up in the 90s somewhere, or 80s?
That was late 90s.
Well, actually,
I think late 90s.
94 is when this is
okay, so early 90s, mid 90s, Yeah, phenomenal. Just phenomenal.
And then the last one is Steve McDonald.
Steve McDonald.
Summerlin.
Sons of Summerled. And that's another
Summerled?
one.
Is it Summerled?
LED. LED. Summerled. And supposedly he had done this album all himself, except for, I think, for a vocal, you found out. Didn't you say something about he had a vocal backup?
I remember now, yeah.
But Paul McCartney back in the early 70s did McCartney, and he did pretty much everything himself.
Yeah, I think he did the whole album.
Yeah, and so that's what this guy does. And that was another one that I found on the spindle, and I played it. And the first song, it just hits, the drums just crank it right up. And I was like, oh man, that sounds good. And I punched a couple other little songs. Well, I bought the CD and I was not disappointed. I was not disappointed. If any of you know the song Loch Lomond, that's a beautiful Irish ballad, and he plays that, and he plays it with the bagpipes as well. And it's just like going back to Phil Driscoll with the Statue of Liberty song. It just brings tears to your eyes. And it's very patriotic too, about Scotland and all the different wars and things that they went through. So that's one of my top 10 right there.
Yeah, and that one was, it went from being like like you could put it to a battle scene to being very just flowing, and there's a nice ballad on there. I forgot the name of it, something about a sea or something, or water. And it goes that to that just patriotic feel.
Yep.
However you describe that.
Yeah.
But it's a patriotic feel. It's just emboldening almost. So yeah. So those are your top 10.
Yep.
Got to take them on the island. A couple new ones for me, the Grand Funk. Phil Driscoll, I remember you playing when I remember the album. I remember seeing the tape.
Yeah.
Because I had all my Billy Joels and everything, and you had all your Phil Driscolls and everything, with Petra and whoever in between.
Petra.
Yeah. So those would be the top 10 he takes. So check them out if you haven't heard any of those albums. I'd be surprised if you haven't seen like Rumors or The Who or whatever. But if you haven't, definitely check those out. There's a reason my light keeps going up. The reason why they're classics. So, all right, well, thanks for getting on the show. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe. That always helps. And definitely leave comments so I can talk with you, see what kind of material you'd like to see on the channel. And we'll see you later, and enjoy listening to your music in the meantime. Bye.
Bye.